The boarding gate was already closing when he ran, one shoe loose, backpack slapping against his shoulder, his son's tiny fingers clenched tight in his own. The attendant scanned his ticket, hesitated, then sighed. "Last seat," she said. "If you let go now, you won't get another chance." He didn't know it yet, but those words were not about the flight. They were about his life, the plane doors sealed with a heavy thud, the kind that sounds final, irreversible. He guided his son into the narrow aisle, murmuring apologies to strangers as they squeezed past knees and bags. The boy, barely 7, looked up at him with wide eyes full of trust, the kind that hurts to carry when you're not sure you deserve it. They reached the last seat at the back, 2 cramped places beside the window. He buckled his son in first, carefully, like every small action mattered more than the world. Only when the child was settled did he allow himself to breathe. Outside, rain streaked the window like tears sliding down glass. Inside, the hum of engines began, low and steady, like a heartbeat starting over. He was a single dad who had lost almost everything in 1 year, his wife to illness, his job to downsizing, his apartment to unpaid rent. This flight wasn't a vacation. It was an escape. A one-way decision to start over in a city where no one knew his failures, where his son wouldn't hear whispers about a father who couldn't keep it together. As the plane taxied forward, he closed his eyes for just a second. That's when it happened. Up in first class, a woman froze, her hand tightened around her champagne glass. Her breath caught. The world narrowed until there was only one face in the reflection of the cabin divider. A tired man with familiar eyes sitting at the very back of the plane. The billionaire hadn't expected this. Not here. Not now. Her mind raced backward 10 years, to a night soaked in regret and silence, to a promise never kept. She had built an empire since then, companies, headlines, power. But none of it prepared her for the moment she realized the last seat on this plane held the one person she had spent a decade trying to forget. She stood abruptly, ignoring the confused looks around her, and started walking down the aisle. The single dad felt it before he saw her, the sudden hush, the shift in energy. When he looked up and their eyes met, time broke. He didn't recognize her immediately. Then the memory hit him like a wave. The hospital hallway. The argument. The choice that shattered everything. His son tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, who is that lady?" He swallowed hard. Just someone from a long time ago. But she was already standing there, her voice barely steady. "We need to talk." The plane lifted into the air, and there was no turning back. The seatbelt sign stayed on longer than usual, trapping them in a suspended moment neither of them had prepared for. She returned to first class, but her eyes kept drifting back, watching him, watching how gently he spoke to his son, how he let the boy lean against him when turbulence hit. Guilt is a strange thing. It doesn't fade with success. It grows sharper. 10 years ago, she had been ambitious and afraid. She chose her future over love, over a man who believed in her before anyone else did. She walked away the night he needed her most, when he found out he was about to become a father, and begged her not to disappear. Now she owned skyscrapers. And he owned a single backpack and a child who trusted him with everything. When the seatbelt sign finally turned off, she didn't hesitate. She walked back again, slower this time, and knelt in the aisle so she was at eye level with him. "I didn't know you'd be on this flight," she said quietly. He gave a tired smile. "Life's full of surprises." "I saw your name on the manifest," she admitted. "I thought it couldn't be you." There was so much unsaid between them, years of silence compressed into one narrow aisle. "This is my son," he said, placing a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. Her breath hitched. He's beautiful." The child studied her, curious. "Do you know my dad?" She nodded slowly. "A long time ago." The conversation that followed was not loud or dramatic. It was soft, raw, human. He spoke about nights spent choosing between food and electricity. About teaching his son to be brave while silently breaking inside. About taking this flight because staying felt like drowning. She listened, really listened, for the first time in her life, when he finished, she said the words he never expected to hear. "I'm sorry." Not excuses. Not justifications. Just truth. The plane began its descent as dawn broke through the clouds, golden light filling the cabin. She made him an offer, not money thrown carelessly, but opportunity. A job. Stability. A chance to stay, to rebuild without running. That he hesitated. Pride is heavy when you've lost so much. His son looked up at him. "Dad, are we okay now?" He looked at the woman who once walked away and saw someone different, someone trying to make it right. "We might be," he said softly. When the plane touched down, it felt like an ending. And a beginning. That he had taken the last seat on the plane thinking it was the end of his road. Minutes later, it became the moment that changed everything, because sometimes, the smallest space is where life finally gives you room to breathe.